If you're finding yourself feeling drained, overwhelmed, and burnt out right now, this could be at the root of what's playing out in this dynamic. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you specific, tangible takeaways to help you shift the dynamic of feeling drained, burnt out, and overwhelmed. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Dr. Christina Fontana. I am a pharmacist, 5-time author, rapid transformation business coach, and creator of the Healers in Healthcare movement. I help entrepreneurs to show up and shine so that you can scale your profitable, world-changing business with practical shifts, strategies, and support. So today I brought show and tell. I have Penny here, first of all, but I wanted to show you what is at the root of feeling drained, overwhelmed, burnt out. And I brought my handy dandy little bowl here. And for those of you who've been following me, you know that I constantly talk about how people pleasing is a huge way that our energy gets drained. So I have here a little mini cheese grater. And I want you to imagine that this is your energy, that every day you wake up and that you get this full bottle of energy. The metaphor is water here. And that what happens is you're giving your power away. You're saying yes to things that you don't want to say yes to. You're afraid to say no. You're avoiding people that are asking you for things and you feel bad because you don't want to disappoint them. This is what's happening to your energy, right? Your energy is being drained. This is exactly what's happening. So this is you right here. You are the cheese grater. So I know I joke, but at the end of the day, you have to think about the fact that people pleasing is costing you. And I'm going to go through 3 ways to shift this dynamic so that you leave feeling empowered, that you start to grow this muscle of self-worth, of speaking up for what you need, because typically this dynamic is learned very early on in childhood. If you've been watching my videos and you've been following me, you know that your foundational programming starts from birth to age 7, because we have a totally clear slate. We are open to everything that our parents tell us, society, we're absorbing everything because we're completely subconscious. And then around age 7 is when you start to develop the conscious mind where you can discern and say, oh yes, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense. So we are literally like sponges when we're growing up. And if you've been taught that good girls, stay quiet, or, it's not polite to speak up, or whatever has happened in your early childhood, which I know a lot of us have had, that parental programming as well as societal and collective programming, of course, this dynamic is going to be playing out. So of course, I always come with the lens of compassion and empathy. Please don't beat yourself up as you go through this video. I want to empower you with tools so that you can grow this muscle of being able to speak what you truly desire. Because what's playing out with people pleasing is essentially you're giving your power away. So you're saying, you know what, your needs are more important than mine right now. And of course, in a lot of ways, we're taught that as women, it's better to give than receive, and it's better to serve others and all of that. But what happens at the expense of overgiving and over-delivering and doing so much that at the end of the day, we are so drained and depleted. So I want you to think about this. How can you start to feel into your body before you respond and automatically say yes to someone's request? What if you felt into your body and you said, okay, do I really desire to do this thing? Or do I feel obligated? Or do I feel guilty if I say no? Or am I doing it out of fear because I really just want this person to like me? When you pause and take a moment, because some part of you inside doesn't feel safe to say no because there's a negative consequence. So you might be yelled at, you might have some kind of negative reaction, maybe the person gets angry at you. And I'll be the first to tell you, when I've set boundaries with people, I have had some people get angry with me. And I also know that because I've created safety within my own nervous system, and I've paused and said, how does this feel to me? Does this feel aligned? Does this feel right? Because often we weren't taught that as children. We had to just give our power away and do whatever our parents said. So we don't have that muscle of self-trust and building that muscle of self-trust is so important. So I want to challenge you, the next time that someone requests something from you, I want you to pause and say, how does this feel in my body? Because especially as people pleasers, we tend to sometimes numb out or dissociate or just say right away an automatic, oh yeah, like that's fine. Yep, I can do that for you. Yep, I can handle that. And what I want you to know is that everything always works out. So even if you say, you know what, I really want to do that for you, I can't right now. Or, hey, you know what, that sounds like a great idea, maybe sometime in the future. Setting a boundary is often extremely scary for a people pleaser or somebody that has been going through this dynamic, because it's, you know, when you've repeated these patterns for years and decades, it can be really scary to say no or to set that boundary because of maybe some past negative consequence that has happened to you, where there was abuse or someone yelled at you or someone abandoned you or said, no, you know, I don't want to be your friend anymore, whatever that is. And a lot of what we do in Elevate Healers Academy relates to this, because we have these memories, these cellular memories in our nervous system that cause these reactions to come through in the current reality. So there's a time, if you think of a line of time, you know, there's the past, present, and future. What's happening is there is a past version of you that is anxious or scared or feels guilty about setting a boundary or saying no. And that's bleeding into this current timeline. And so whenever I talk about shifting the past and cutting cords with the past so that you can be free in the here and now, this is the inner work that is going to liberate you, so that you're not repeating these cycles over and over and over again, so that you're not driving yourself crazy, feeling anxious all the time and worrying about, is this person gonna like me? Or are they gonna leave me? Which, of course, this all makes sense. And I also want you to know that no matter what happens on the other side of that interaction is not your job, right? Your job is to show up and be authentic as your true self. And if the person on the other end of that interaction leaves or gets angry, you are not responsible for their emotions. So I want you to even anchor that in the comments. I am not responsible for managing other people's emotions, because we're such empaths and we have such big hearts. We want people to be happy. Of course we do. But at the expense of ourselves, we have to think about, is that something that I want to continue? So what I'd like you to do is to, again, in this dynamic, if someone's asking you something and you're really scared to say no, bring the energy back into your body, just closing your eyes and creating some safety. So even connecting with your body like I am, touching your heart or your solar plexus or your stomach, and saying a mantra like, I am safe no matter what happens after this interaction. It's safe for me to speak my truth, right? This is the throat chakra. That often we weren't allowed to speak our truths when we were younger because there was a punishment or something negative that came out of it. I want you to also think about the fact that when a lot of what happens with people pleasing is if you don't say no and you avoid, if that's kind of your tendency to go to more of, if someone asks you something and say it's something like a huge favor and you're afraid to say no, so then you avoid. I want you to think about what that's costing you, because the other person sitting on the other end of that conversation being like, hey, are you like, is this a yes? Is this a no? So if you're avoiding and you're running away and not facing the conversation because of the fear, it's costing you connection. It's costing you authentic communication. And so think about that. I'm not shaming you. I just want you to see how when you withhold communication, when you shy away, when you avoid, the other person's left here saying, hey, what's happening? So when you have that safety, when you're going through that practice I just said, you have the stability in your own nervous system to say, you know what, and you communicate clearly with that other person and you close the loop rather than leaving an open loop and the other person's like, hey, what are we doing here? You close the loop and say, hey, I would love to do that. I can't at this time. The next part that I want to go into is what typically happens is you over explain, you over apologize, like, I'm really sorry, but I can't, da 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 da. That's, again, I want you to think back to the cheese grater here, leaking energy. What you can do is to just catch yourself in the moment. If you're typing an email out, if you are texting something out, I want you to stop and say, why am I over explaining myself? Why do I feel the need to over apologize if I say no? So what I want you to do in that moment is to challenge yourself to delete that. Delete that last part that says, I'm really sorry, I wish I could do this, but like my kids, da 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 da. It's allowed to be easier. You can say, I really wish that I could help you. At this time, I can't. Done. I know that I just talked to my husband about this. I still struggle with some of this as well. And so I want to empower you to know that this is a muscle that you're continually going to be growing. My husband had an instance where he had to address something with his golf league, and he wound up saying, like, I'm really sorry to bother you guys about this. I said, why did you say that? Delete that out of there. If you're going to say something, own it. This is stepping back into your power, reclaiming your power, not needing to over explain, not needing to over apologize and just say, I'm really sorry, I wish I could do it, but like, this is what's happening. It's okay. You don't need to over explain. You don't need to over apologize. This has so much to do with worthiness. That's why, Wealth Wednesdays, we're always talking about self-worth and wealth. This topic ties back into self-worth, because when we're anchored and grounded in who we are, we don't need validation from the outside. It's okay if someone doesn't like what we have to say. It's okay if someone leaves or criticizes or whatever they have going on, because everybody is a reflection. Everybody's seeing the world from a different point of view. And so their reality is going to be different than yours. So anchoring back into your power and saying, this is what I desire, this is what I want, this is what I'm willing to tolerate and what I'm not, this is the boundary I'm going to set, is powerful. Because then you don't have this cheese grater situation, right? You're allowing yourself to have more of a solid foundation to be able to hold more energy. Think about that. So imagine that all of these holes are plugged up. And these holes represent boundaries, or you saying, yeah, you know what? That doesn't feel aligned for me right now. You not just going in and scrolling on Facebook and commenting on everybody's stuff. I'm just giving an example of how energy leaks show up, or helping everybody else at the expense of yourself, or not taking care of yourself, taking care of your kids and everything like that, but not meditating or doing the things that you know are going to fill your own cup. So these are just ideas that you can start to feel into to grow this muscle of self-worth, of plugging up some of these holes so that you are not leaking energy, creating space for yourself to just be without having to do or give or anything like that. I know I talked about that in my last video. And the last thing I want to talk about here is that, again, when we are showing up as and playing out this people-pleasing dynamic, it's not authentic, because we are not allowing our true desires to be spoken. We're not allowing ourselves to say, you know what? I like this. I don't like this. I'm willing to be treated this way. I'm not willing to be treated this way. So if we're like, yeah, that sounds fine, that's okay, it's not authentic, because we're not really saying what we want to say. So I want you to think about the different areas of your life: business, children, health, all of the things, finances. Where might you be withholding communication and authentic self-expression? Perhaps it's something with your spouse, that something's really been annoying you and you're afraid to say it because you don't want them to flip out or you don't want another fight. I want you to come to the interaction. I want you to just even imagine that there is a bubble of just this brilliant golden light of protection, of safety. You can do this at any interaction that you have, whether it's at work or it's a challenging conversation you have to have. You can imagine a cloak, whatever is better for your intuition that feels good for you. Go into the interaction stable in your power and say, hey, can I talk to you about something? This has really been bothering me. I've been feeling, right, and owning your own feelings. How does this sound to you? How does this feel to you? I really want to talk to you about this. And when you have that conversation, things are going to start shifting in your reality. If you're withholding fully self-expressing in your business and kind of posting safe content or things that you think people will like, then it's not authentic to who you really are and the true embodiment of that next level of power, because people are drawn to real, to authentic. And so just giving you some ideas here on how to shift this so that you can show up with more power. And of course, that's going to lead to holding more energy, holding more wealth, more clients, being able to have more space for yourself. So it's actually this vicious cycle, right? If we're totally ignoring our needs and we're letting our energy get drained, of course, we're not going to have time for self-care, and it continues with this vicious cycle. So I want you to comment below, what is the biggest takeaway that you got from this video? How are you going to start showing up and growing that muscle of authentic self-expression, of saying what you really want to say, whether it's in your business, whether it's with your kids or your spouse or at work, whatever that might be. And I'm excited to hear what shifts for you. So let me know. Make sure that you are subscribing to this channel so that you get more videos every single week for Wealth Wednesday, where I teach you how to rise into more wealth and worthiness. Give this video a like, and I will see you on the next video.